You ever wonder why your life isn't where it should be? Why you keep ending up in the same mess, same patterns, same regrets, again and again? Let me tell you something that nobody's probably told you to your facing. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not even other people. It's you. And it comes down to 3 weapons that you either master, or that master you: your mouth, your mood, and your money. And if you don't learn how to control them, they will absolutely destroy you from the inside out. The first time I learned this lesson, I was sitting across from someone who had just ruined their career with one sentence. Just one. That's all it took. I remember watching them spiral, not because they weren't smart, not because they didn't have potential, but because in a moment of emotion, they let their mouth lead. And what most people don't realize is that your mouth is a mirror of your mind. If you're undisciplined in your speech, you're undisciplined in your thinking. You say things to feel powerful, to be heard, to release what you can't regulate internally. And then you pay the price in relationships, in reputation, in respect. Power isn't about saying everything you feel. It's about knowing when not to speak. If you can't hold your tongue, you'll never hold influence. And then there's your mood. You know how many people ruin 24 hours because of 10 bad seconds? Someone cuts them off in traffic. Someone gives them attitude. A partner says the wrong thing in the morning. And boom, there goes their whole day. You are not powerful if you're emotionally hijacked by every situation. Your mood is not meant to lead you. It's meant to be led by you. And most people don't even realize how addicted they are to being reactive. They confuse feelings with facts. But the truth is, if you want to lead, build, rise, you better get comfortable with being uncomfortable without acting out. Emotional control isn't weakness. It's warrior-level strength. It's knowing how to stay calm in chaos, how to choose logic over reaction, and how to respond with intelligence when your ego wants to explode. That's control. That's power. And then there's the one no one wants to talk about: money. You think freedom comes from having more of it. Wrong. Freedom comes from knowing how to control what you already have. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a discipline problem. You get the paycheck, but you also get the impulse. You spend to soothe. You buy to prove. You borrow to impress. And before you know it, you're trapped in your own choices. Money is not emotional, but most people make financial decisions from a place of fear, ego, or desire. And that's why they stay broke. It's not about how much you earn. It's about how much you keep, how wisely you spend, and how well you plan. If you can't control your money will control your mind. You'll wake up every day chained to stress, debt, and limitation, because you didn't have the courage to control your cravings. So let me be brutally honest with you. You can't call yourself a high-value man or woman if your mouth is reckless, your mood is fragile, and your money's a mess. You want to rise, master the basics, control your impulses, stop reacting, think before you speak, breathe before you explode, pause before you purchase. This isn't just about success, it's about survival. Because in a world that's constantly testing your patience, your emotions, and your self-worth, only the ones with discipline will thrive. And if you're not willing to take command of your own life, don't be surprised when chaos takes command of you. So before you open your mouth, ask yourself, is it necessary? Before you react, ask, is it worth it? Before you spend, ask, is it wise? That is how you lead your life with precision, with purpose, with power. And the moment you realize that control isn't restriction, it's freedom, that's when your life starts to change. That's when you stop living on repeat. That's when you start leading yourself, not just surviving the day. Because real power doesn't shout, it whispers with certainty. It doesn't flinch, it flows. And it doesn't chase, it chooses. The question is, will you? Your mouth can be your biggest liability or your strongest asset. That's the truth no one tells you when you're growing up. People will tell you to speak your mind, to stand your ground, to be real. But what they don't say is that the wrong words at the wrong moment can cost you everything you've built. One reckless sentence can burn bridges you spent years constructing. One impulsive comment can erase your credibility in a room full of decision makers. I've sat across from individuals who were talented, disciplined, and capable. But they talked themselves out of opportunities because they didn't know when to shut up. And that's not harsh. That's reality. If you think success is about saying whatever you feel, whenever you feel it, you're not aiming for influence. You're chasing validation. What you say reveals how you think. And if your thinking is sloppy, your speech will be reckless. You don't earn respect by being the loudest in the room. You earn it by being the one who speaks with weight, intent, control. People listen to those who speak less but say more. And if you're constantly oversharing, overreacting, or trying to prove a point, what you're really showing is that you haven't built that inner silence yet. That unshakable composure. Power is not about dominating conversations. It's about mastering your message. It's about knowing when your silence says more than any words could. So, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to lead with authority, then start treating your words like currency. Spend them wisely, and never cheapen your voice just to fill the silence. Control is not silence, it's discipline. And that's where most people get it wrong. They think if you're not loud, if you're not constantly speaking up, then you're weak or submissive. No, real strength is having something to say and choosing not to say it. Real power is sitting in a room, fully capable of tearing someone down, but holding your ground in silence because you're not controlled by ego. Silence isn't retreat, it's strategy. And discipline isn't suppression, it's ownership. You own your response, your emotions, your impact. That's where influence lies. You don't have to tell the world everything you think to be respected. You just need to show people that your words are measured, not mindless. That you think before you speak. Because if you're the kind of person who spills every reaction the second it rises, you're not in control. Your emotions are. And people can sense that. They can read your lack of self-command like a scent in the air. You want to be seen as powerful. Then you need to act powerful. That means knowing when your silence holds more authority than your voice. That means not giving in to the urge to prove, defend, or argue every time you're challenged. The disciplined one always holds the upper hand. Not because they say more, but because they've mastered the art of saying less with more impact. Emotional intelligence is strength, not softness. Somewhere along the way, people started believing that controlling your emotions made you fake, or robotic, or weak. But let me tell you something. Anyone can explode. Anyone can yell, slam doors, send that impulsive text, lash out in the heat of the moment. That's not power. That's immaturity in action. True strength, real strength is feeling the fire rise inside you and choosing not to let it burn the whole house down. It's standing in the storm of your own anger or frustration and staying grounded when every part of you wants to react. That's emotional discipline. That's what separates leaders from the loud. You want to be someone who can walk into any room and command presence. Then learn to command yourself first. Learn to sit with your feelings instead of being ruled by them. That doesn't mean you don't feel. Of course you feel. You're human. But when your emotions run the show, you lose credibility, you lose clarity, and you lose control. The people who get ahead in life are not the ones who feel the least. They're the ones who master how to channel what they feel into something intelligent, not impulsive. Because at the end of the day, you're either reacting or you're leading. You can't do both. And every time you let your emotions dictate your behavior, you give your power away. To a moment, to a mood, to a trigger that didn't deserve it. Reacting is easy, responding is power. And there's a big difference between the two. Anyone can react. That takes no effort, no self-control, no awareness. Something happens and you lash out. You get offended, and you fire back. Someone disrespects you, and you go straight for the throat. That's not strength. That's surrendering to your impulses. That's letting other people pull your strings like a puppet. And if anyone can control your behavior just by pushing your buttons, then you don't own your power. They do. Responding, though, that's different. Responding means you pause, you assess, you think. It means you refuse to hand over control of your actions to the chaos around you. People will try to provoke you. Life will throw you curveballs. But how you choose to respond will determine whether you rise above or stay stuck in the mud with everybody else. Emotional maturity shows up in that split-second space between trigger and reaction. That's where growth lives. That's where strength builds. That's where leadership starts. You want to be respected. Then stop reacting to everything. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every challenge deserves your energy. You gain nothing by proving you can fire back, but you gain everything by proving you know when not to, because that's what real power looks like. Calm under pressure, composed in the heat, strategic in the face of provocation. Not everything deserves your reaction, but everything will notice your response. Mood management is self-respect in action. Let that sink in, because the way you carry yourself emotionally, how you handle stress, how you treat people when you're angry, how you speak when you're disappointed or triggered, says far more about your character than anything you claim about yourself. We live in a world where people take pride in being unfiltered or raw, but there's nothing powerful about being emotionally sloppy. Losing your temper, snapping at others, falling apart over things that don't go your way. Those aren't signs of honesty or authenticity. They're signs that you haven't learned how to lead yourself yet. And if you can't lead yourself, no one should be following you. You want to earn the respect of others. Start by respecting your own energy. Start by realizing that your emotions are not facts. They're signals, they're messengers, but they are not commands. And if every time you feel frustrated or hurt or overwhelmed you immediately lash out, shut down, or spiral, you're letting the emotion own you. You're living as a prisoner to every situation that crosses your path. Think about that. That means anyone, at any time, can hijack your mood and dictate how your day goes, how you show up, how you treat people. That's not freedom. That's weakness disguised as expression. Here's what most people don't realize: emotional chaos is a silent destroyer. It doesn't always show up in public breakdowns or shouting matches. Sometimes it looks like you snapping at your partner for no reason, or withdrawing from opportunities because you're in your feelings, or sabotaging relationships because you took something personally that wasn't even about you. And the worst part, you probably convince yourself that it's justified, that you had a right to feel that way, that it's just who you are. But if who you are is someone who can't be trusted with stress, who can't handle pressure without exploding or imploding, then you are not in control. Your emotions are running your life, and they are doing it poorly. Self-respect means not letting your mood dictate your behavior. It means having the courage to pause when you're upset. It means not weaponizing your emotions to manipulate others. You know how many people hold their family hostage with their moods? How many parents make their homes miserable because they don't know how to process frustration? How many partners punish each other through silence or attitude because they never learn to communicate past their own ego? That's not love. That's emotional immaturity. And it's a disease that infects every area of your life if you don't deal with it. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to be accountable. You need to know yourself well enough to recognize when you're not okay, and strong enough not to bleed all over people who didn't cut you. That's what emotional discipline is. It's not suppressing how you feel. It's being able to feel it fully without falling apart. It's being able to sit with discomfort without using others as your outlet. That's power. That's leadership. That's how you rise in life, by refusing to let your mood ruin moments that matter. Think of all the people who've lost jobs, wrecked relationships, or missed opportunities, not because they weren't capable, but because they couldn't regulate themselves. One bad mood, one emotional decision, one impulsive outburst, and suddenly they're living with consequences that outlast the trigger. That's the cost of poor mood management. It's not about that one moment. It's about the ripple effect it causes. You can undo years of trust, respect, or progress in 5 seconds of emotional recklessness. And by the time the storm passes, the damage is already done. So what do you do about it? You train yourself to recognize the signs. You develop awareness. You catch the shift before it owns you. You ask yourself, am I reacting from my current mood or from who I want to be? You stop giving every emotion a microphone. You realize not everything needs to be said the second you feel it. You breathe. You ground yourself. You give yourself permission to feel without acting. You lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. And when you mess up, and you will, you take ownership. You apologize not just to the person, but to yourself. Because you know you can do better. And here's the hard truth most won't tell you. People remember how you make them feel. They remember how steady you were when things went sideways. They remember whether you stayed calm when the room got tense. They remember whether you were safe to be around when stress hit the ceiling. That becomes your reputation, not just in your personal life, but professionally too. No one wants to work with someone whose mood is unpredictable. No one wants to build with someone who's always in emotional reaction mode. They want people who can think clearly under pressure. People who can regulate before they communicate. People who don't make others pay for what they themselves haven't resolved. You want peace? Then stop outsourcing your emotional stability to the world. Stop expecting everything to go your way so you can stay calm. The world won't cooperate with your comfort. People won't always treat you right. Things will fall apart. Life will test you. And your job isn't to avoid those tests, it's to rise through them with grace, grit, and discipline. That's emotional power. That's what creates real peace. Not in the world, but in you. Because once you master your mood, you stop needing the world to behave. You stop needing people to change for you to feel good. You become your own anchor. And when you're your own anchor, you're dangerous. In the best way, you become unshakable. You become that person people turn to when things fall apart. Not because you have all the answers, but because you don't crumble. You don't react. You hold steady. And in a world full of chaos, that kind of calm is magnetic. So if you want to change your life, don't just change your habits. Change your emotional standards. Raise the bar on how you allow yourself to show up, especially when it's hard. Stop giving yourself excuses to behave poorly just because you're in a bad mood. That's not strength. That's self-sabotage. The more you justify your lack of control, the longer you stay stuck. Choose differently. Choose to be the person who owns their energy, who protects their peace, who walks into rooms with a calm so deep that it shifts the atmosphere. That's the kind of presence that doesn't need volume to be heard. That's the kind of discipline that builds legacies. Because in the end, it's not just what you achieve that defines you. It's how you carried yourself while you achieved it. And that all starts with how you manage your mood when no one's watching. Money doesn't define you, but how you manage it does. Most people walk around thinking money is just about numbers. How much you earn, how much you owe, how much you spend. But it's deeper than that. Money reveals your discipline. It exposes your mindset. It tells the truth about your values without you having to say a word. You want to know who someone really is. Don't just listen to their goals. Look at how they spend. Look at what they prioritize when no one's watching. Look at how they behave when they get a little extra in their hands. That's the real character check. You can't call yourself responsible if you're reckless with your finances. And I don't care how much money you make. If you spend faster than you earn, you're not successful, you're surviving. You're dressing up instability and hoping no one notices. But deep down, you know that temporary high of buying things to feel better, that pressure of keeping up appearances, that anxiety at the end of the month when the numbers don't lie. It's not about how wealthy you appear. It's about how secure you actually are. People confuse financial freedom with income. But freedom doesn't come from making more. It comes from controlling what you already have. You could triple your income tomorrow and still live paycheck to paycheck if your mindset doesn't change. If you keep spending to impress, to distract, to soothe your insecurities, then money will always control you. And the moment your sense of worth is tied to material things, you've already lost power. You don't build wealth through luck. You build it through intentionality, through choices that most people aren't willing to make. Saying no when it would be easier to say yes. Delaying gratification when everyone around you is chasing the next dopamine hit. Planning for the future when everyone else is focused on the weekend. That's discipline. That's strategy. That's how you build a life that isn't just flashy, but strong. Because let's be honest, people can rent status. They can lease the image of success. But you can't fake stability. You can't fake control. That kind of power comes from habits. From learning to sit with discomfort instead of swiping your way out of it. From facing the real reasons you overspend, whether it's boredom, loneliness, insecurity, and choosing not to medicate those emotions with money. Money has no emotion. It doesn't judge. It doesn't care about your excuses. It only reflects what you do with it. And if you want it to work for you, then you need to respect it. Track it. Learn about it. Stop avoiding your bank statements like they're haunted, That's not maturity. That's avoidance. And avoidance keeps you broke. Mentally, emotionally, and financially. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be honest. Stop pretending the issue is your paycheck if the real issue is your choices. Stop blaming the system when you haven't built a system of your own. Take responsibility for your finances the same way you take responsibility for your words and your emotions. Because financial chaos doesn't stay in your wallet. It leaks into your relationships, your health, your peace of mind. It affects the way you sleep at night, the way you show up in the world, the risks you're too afraid to take because you're drowning in bad decisions. You want confidence. Get control of your money. You want peace. Get honest about your habits. You want real power. Build it dollar by dollar through choices no one claps for. Because at the end of the day, financial power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the freedom to walk away, the freedom to say no, the freedom to build on your own terms. That's not just about money. That's about self-respect. And it starts the moment you stop using money as an escape and start using it as a tool. Stop trying to impress with what you buy. Start earning respect by how you think. That's where real power lies. Not in your designer shoes, not in your latest gadget, not in the car you drive or the vacations you post. People get so caught up in chasing the image of success that they forget what actual success requires. It's not about showing people what you have. It's about showing them who you are when the applause stops, when the spotlight fades, and when there's no one watching but you. True strength, and here's what most don't understand: you don't gain influence by being flashy. You gain it by being strategic, by being intelligent, and by thinking long-term when everyone else is living for the moment. There's a dangerous mindset that tells you you're only as valuable as what you can show off. That if you don't look the part, you won't be taken seriously. That if people can't see your success, then it doesn't count. And that's how so many fall into the trap of buying to impress instead of building to sustain. They're drowning in debt, but wearing confidence like a mask. They're insecure underneath the surface, so they use material things to cover it up. But what you own should never be louder than your values. Your mindset is what will carry you when the money fluctuates, when things fall apart, when no one is clapping. That's what keeps you grounded. That's what separates those who are truly successful from those just playing the part. Anyone can buy an image. You can scroll through social media and see thousands of people trying to look like they've made it. But wisdom can't be bought. Strategy can't be faked. Character can't be rented. And intelligence can't be worn like a brand. That's the difference. You want people to take you seriously. Then start making decisions that reflect vision, not vanity. Learn to think like a leader, not a consumer. Invest in your growth before your wardrobe. Build your credibility before your closet. Because when it comes down to it, nobody really respects what you show. They respect what you know, what you've built. How you carry yourself when there's nothing left to prove. Some of the most powerful people I've met didn't look powerful. They didn't need to. They walked into a room and you could feel their presence. Not because they were loud, but because they were clear, grounded, precise. They didn't need attention. They didn't need to flex. They had depth. And that's what people crave in a world full of surface-level noise. Depth, substance, a mind that's sharp, not a lifestyle that's loud. So don't waste your energy trying to impress people who are just as lost as you. Impress yourself. Think bigger. Think deeper. Choose growth over approval. And remember, the world doesn't respect those who constantly need validation. It respects those who move with conviction, who speak with clarity, who show discipline over desire. That's what makes people listen. That's what earns you a seat at the table, not the watch on your wrist, but the mindset that built the life you didn't need to broadcast. Impulse is the enemy of progress, and the reason most people never reach the level of success they say they want is because they keep choosing what feels good now over what builds strength later. They want instant gratification, they want comfort, they want relief. So they speak without thinking, they spend without planning, and they react without reflecting. And every time they do, they trade long-term gain for short-term satisfaction. That's not just poor decision-making, it's self-sabotage in disguise. You can't build anything great if you're a slave to every impulse that passes through your mind. You want to say it because you're angry. Pause. You want to buy it because you're stressed. Stop. You want to walk away because it got hard. Think. Power isn't in how fast you move, it's in how intentional you are when it counts. And impulse. Impulse kills intentionality. It makes you forget your plan, it hijacks your goals, it convinces you that right now matters more than what's ahead. And if you don't learn how to catch that moment, that 1 second between impulse and action, you will keep burning down everything you're trying to build. Every disciplined person you admire, every high performer you look up to, has one thing in common. They've trained themselves to delay the urge, to resist the emotion, to pause long enough to choose the right move, not just the easy one. You think they never feel tempted to lash out, spend carelessly, or quit when it gets hard. Of course they do, but they don't let their feelings dictate their decisions. They know that emotion has no loyalty to your future. It just wants relief. And if you always give in to it, you'll stay stuck in cycles that look like progress on the surface, but lead you nowhere in the end. You have to get honest with yourself. Are your actions aligned with your ambitions, or are they feeding your impulses? Are you making choices that make you proud later, or ones that just silence discomfort now? Because growth doesn't come from what's easy. It comes from resisting what's easy. From saying no to yourself when everything inside you wants to say yes. That's the real work. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. You can't control everything in life, but you can control how you respond to what you feel. You can't stop impulses from showing up, but you can stop them from running your life. And once you do that, you stop being reactive and start being strategic. You stop chasing results and start building systems. You stop hoping for success and start earning it. That's the shift. That's how you take your power back, not by controlling the world, but by mastering yourself in the moments that matter most. Powerful people protect their peace. They don't hand it out to anyone who provokes them. They don't let every opinion, every challenge, or every inconvenience rob them of their calm. And it's not because they're cold or detached. It's because they've learned through pain and experience that peace is not a luxury. It's a survival skill. You don't reach the top by being the most reactive person in the room. You get there by knowing exactly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. That's not arrogance. That's precision. That's mental discipline. You have to stop giving away your peace like it's free. Every time you let someone's comment get under your skin, every time you allow someone's attitude to shape your day, every time you overextend yourself to avoid saying no, you're trading your clarity for chaos. And that kind of trade will bankrupt your mind. Because the truth is, the world will always offer you 100 reasons to be distracted, irritated, defensive, overwhelmed. But what separates powerful people from everyone else is the decision to stay calm anyway. They don't allow outside noise to determine their inner state. That's not something you're born with. It's something you train. You train by deciding over and over that your peace is non-negotiable. You learn to say no to energy draining people. You learn to disengage from meaningless drama. You stop fighting battles that don't lead anywhere just to prove that you're right. Because winning an argument doesn't mean anything if you lose your focus, your integrity, or your direction in the process. There's nothing impressive about always needing to have the last word. What's impressive is knowing when silence serves you better. Peace is not passive. It's not the absence of conflict. It's the ability to stay centered in the middle of it. It's walking through stress without letting it own your tone. It's being challenged and still choosing not to retaliate from ego. That kind of control is earned through practice, not personality. Every time you choose not to respond to nonsense, every time you remove yourself from toxic energy, every time you pause instead of react, you're building that muscle. And the stronger that muscle gets, the less triggered you become, the more emotionally bulletproof you get. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop chasing. You stop chasing approval, explanations, revenge, validation. You start trusting your boundaries. You start trusting your silence, because peace is what gives you power, not noise, not reaction. Peace lets you see things clearly, move with intention, and protect your emotional energy like it's a priceless asset. Because it is. And once you understand that, You stop negotiating your peace just to please people who don't even deserve a front row seat in your life. Mastering your mouth, your mood, and your money is mastering your life. That's the core of everything. You want to know why some people seem unshakable, focused, powerful, not just in what they do, but in how they live. It's because they've taken full command of the areas that most people let run on autopilot. They don't let their mouth destroy what their mind built. They don't let their emotions hijack their actions. And they definitely don't let their finances be controlled by impulse or ego. They're deliberate. They're disciplined, and because of that, they move through life with a level of clarity that others mistake for luck. But it's not luck, it's control, it's intention, it's practice. Every part of your life that's out of control can usually be traced back to one of these three areas. You can't keep relationships because you speak without thinking. You lose respect at work because you react before you assess. You stay stuck financially because you're living for the moment instead of planning for the future. This isn't about perfection, it's about patterns. And if you don't take responsibility for those patterns, they will continue to play out over and over until they break you. Success doesn't happen because you get lucky one day. It happens because you do the hard, quiet work consistently, the work no one sees. The work that starts with you deciding you're no longer going to be led by your triggers. That your words are going to carry weight. That your emotions are going to be processed, not projected. That your money is going to be used as a tool, not a weapon. That's how you build real power. By taking control of the things that everyone else makes excuses for. Because let's be honest, the people who lose control of their mouths destroy trust. The ones who can't control their moods create chaos. And those who don't control their money stay trapped. That's the truth. If you're constantly reacting, constantly explaining, constantly broke, it's not the world's fault. It's time to stop looking outward and start owning the reality you've created. Because the moment you take control of these three areas is the moment you stop surviving and start leading. And nothing, absolutely nothing, becomes more dangerous than a person who has mastered themselves. So here's the bottom line. If you want a life that's unshakable, if you want power that isn't borrowed or performed but earned, then you need to take control of what's already in your hands. Your mouth, your mood, your money. These aren't small things. These are the battlegrounds where real strength is forged. Most people never rise because they're too busy reacting, overspending, and speaking without thinking. But if you can master these three, if you can pause before you speak, lead your emotions instead of being led by them, and use your money with discipline instead of desire, you don't just change your circumstances. You change your identity. Because in the end, self-control is self-respect. And the person who learns how to command themselves is the person no one else can command. So stop waiting for the world to hand you peace, stability, or success. Start becoming the person who creates it, protects it, and lives it every single day. That's not just discipline. That's power. And it's yours, if you're ready to take it.